Hello, my name is Shannon Ferguson, and I'm a first-year graduate student in the printmaking program at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. I'm originally from Fairview, Texas, which is a suburb north of Dallas, and I have a BFA in studio art from Syracuse University. This is my biographical talk about my personal art practice. Art making has always been an important part of my life, and growing up I had a really great visual arts program in my school district. I focused on drawing and painting from observation, and these foundational skills have been important to my practice and the way I create images. Finishing up high school, I was painting symbolic portraits of friends and family using floral and animal Renaissance symbols. This was so I had symbols of them to describe them when I was far away at college. This was the first use of symbolism in my work. In the fall of 2016, I started undergrad at Syracuse University, and I was still working from observation in creating portraiture and still life paintings. I was creating work about my anxiety and adjusting to the new changes of college, but painting no longer felt like the proper medium for communicating what I wanted to say with my work. I began working in printmaking early in my time there, and the repetitive and meditative processes drew me in. Through printmaking, I began working larger and more non-objectively to create work about women's rights and mental health. The politically engaged environment on my college campus encouraged me to advocate for mental health and use my work in public spaces to share these ideas with the community. I became interested in collaborative and interactive work during this time. In the fall of 2018, I studied abroad in Florence, Italy, where I took a class on screen printing textiles. Repeatable patterns became an important visual element in my work and still presents itself in my work today. During my time in Italy, symbolism made its way back into a prominent place in my work due to my studies in art history. My semester abroad concluded with the installation Flutters and Fractures, and it was the first time I had used sound and video in my work. The sound being my spine cracking in reference to a prior injury and chronic pain, which I later discovered was my undiagnosed fibromyalgia. When I returned from my semester in Italy, I came back with a new signature color scheme and an interest in interactive sensory work. I was working with taste and smell, using cake and essential oils to make my work scented to get people to interact with the work in front of them. Going into my thesis year, I was thinking about ideas of wanted and unwanted touch. My first work about the subject was a 3-foot by 7-foot steamroller block using the hand as the primary symbol for touch. I used found imagery to create the composition and continued using this method to create a suite of etchings to include in an artist book later on. This thesis work, titled Art and the Sensorium, was split into 2 categories, the first being about misophonia, the hatred of sound, and included the shown sound grids that vibrated and had unique QR codes that connected to a sound set and gathered data specific to each person interacting with them. Through book arts, I was able to create the interactivity that I was interested in, and I began making books about consensual and non-consensual touch. Using hands as that main visual symbol, I used different textures and interactive elements within these books, like removable cards, to get people to touch them and interact with them. These books became the second part of my thesis, which I was able to display using mannequin hands during a solo show in early 2020. This show also displayed my sound grids for the first time to gather sound data, and little did I know that it would be the only opportunity to display my thesis work before graduating. After graduating, I was chosen as a Navasota artist in residence in the fall of 2020. In this residency, I was still using found image collage in my print work, and my work about wanted and unwanted touch felt even more relevant due to the ongoing pandemic. This is when I transitioned into using cut felt in my work. This residency gave me the time and space to learn how to use a Cricut machine to cut felt and make banners. The banners made during this residency investigated the architecture and history of the small Texas town, and by the time I left the residency, my banners had become my full-time job. For the next 2 years, I sold custom banners through Etsy, traveled for shows, and fulfilled wholesale orders. Between the fall of 2020 and the end of 2022, I had made over 1,000 handmade banners and sent them to almost every state in the country. Though a lot of my time was taken up by making banners, I was still working in relief printing. I was specifically working with botanical symbolism and found image collage, and I was still hand printing editions, particularly with woodcuts and participating in steamroller printing events. In the spring of 2023, the school district I had graduated from had a last-minute teaching opening, and I jumped at the opportunity. I was teaching 5th and 6th grade art, and I loved teaching, specifically thinking about the full circle moment that brought me back where my love for art started. My current work investigates the ongoing search for physical and emotional comfort. 5 years after the start of my symptoms, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia and prescribed medication to lessen my symptoms. These works symbolically represent my efforts to escape from pain, and I am using this work to call attention to the struggle of finding comfort as someone with an invisible illness. On a lighter note, my work in the letterpress shop has been heavily influenced by my banner making practice and the desire to create lighthearted typographic work. Through the use of sarcasm, bright colors, and found imagery, I'm creating poster imagery of contemporary phrases. Set type has its own artifactual history, and by using it to create contemporary content, I am adding to its residual energy and its own history. Thank you. If you would like to stay in touch, contact me. My website and social media are listed below.